Hey, welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. What have we got? Well, it's all about vectors, isn't it? In AI terms, that is. And essentially, it's not new sort of news, but if you use Microsoft SQL Server, then this will be of interest to you. And even if you use Azure SQL, so in other words, the cloud hosted, provided sort of version of SQL or your own version running locally or on your own servers. So basically, I think from November last year, Azure SQL has had a preview of vector support. Okay, so you might have heard a lot of late, and I think I did an episode a while back about vector databases, albeit a rather rambled one. But there's a lot of vector databases. Postgres has got a really excellent one, PG Vector, which is sort of built in, which is quite nice. And that's what Microsoft have done, like everybody, of course, is essentially you in Azure SQL, that's already in preview, and so is actually SQL Server 2025, because we are in 2025, and there is a preview version that you can get your hands on as a Docker container. Why not? Because I always use Docker Desktop, so you can run it alongside any other versions of SQL without blowing everything up and overloading your little computer. So the idea is what this introduces is essentially a new vector store. So there's a vector type, but interestingly, and a bit like in Postgres as well with PG Vector, you can, instead of having a separate vector database, and there are lots out there, as I've mentioned, what you can do is you can have it all in the same database, but even better, there's a lot of, there's a lot of benefits where you've got the vector data type that can be as part of your own database. You can create a table for vectors only inside your existing database with all your normal stuff. And you've got very nice seamless integration. There's built-in vector functions, which is always useful. Like most of these vector databases, you need some way of utilizing them. So you can do distance between, two words, man and woman, say, for instance. And you can do a Euclidean sort of function, a cosine function. So these are the nearest end, like it'll work out if you provide man and woman, it's going to be human or whatever, or not in some cases. But anyway, the idea is that you've got all of this lovely integration. If you don't know what a vector is, you can use ChatGPT, I'm sure. But ultimately, it's a vector is a mathematical representation of data, such as words, images, or other entities in a multidimensional space. Okay, so essentially each vector consists of a list of numbers that capture the essential features or characteristics of that data that it represents. So, when it comes down to things like vectorizing words, it will use embedding, essentially. And it involves mapping each word to high-dimensional vector space where words with similar meanings are positioned closer together. So again, man and woman, will be sort of close together because it's, a human or whatever it might be. The other example is, king and queen would be represented by vectors that are near each other because they've got a lot of similarities there. So it's a way of contextualizing words, phrases that are close together. Okay, so the idea is that a lot of this, when you're dealing with your own data, you can't, and obviously in the early stages, unless you were an AI scientist or anything, people thought, these vectors are just numeric values of those words or something. That isn't the case. You do, and this is where the clever bit comes in. You do need to use vector embedding. So OpenAI, for instance, have got on their API, you've got text embedding. So you can provide a word or a phrase or a paragraph or a whole document, and it will vectorize all of that in and make it so that it's got the nearest values for common contextual words and things like that. So the idea is when you come to actually search, it can actually find similar things. So if you're searching for, I don't know, I can't even think of something at the moment, but you get the idea. If you're searching for a thing, it will find similar things because it's to do with that embedding, that it's actually generated those vectors. So it's got closest sort of closely related data. Sorry, I will get this out very, very shortly. But that's where, you've got things like those vector functions. So you've got different, and this really, it makes everybody an AI expert, doesn't it? But in reality, the clever stuff is how all this works really underneath the hood. Things like those vector distances, like if you're using a Euclidean or cosine or a dot function, there's different ways that those similarities, those grouping of vectors can be related together. I think that they referred, there was one phrase, it's the nearest neighbor, basically. It's that type of thing. Okay. So, but anyway, so the idea is that this is, there's lots of vector databases out there for sure, and lots of choice as always, which is always a good thing. But again, if you are a Microsoft SQL person, you can take advantage of this, and then you get into the use cases, which we'll cover in another episode or a video about how you can actually use the new vector store in SQL. But you can get it. I'll put a couple of links in the show notes. But like I said, you can have a little play about and with this and have a little bit more of a read. But that's what I've got this time. So wherever you are, have a good day, a week, whatever it might be, and we will catch you on the next one.